Piggy in one video. So this is what happened. First, uh, a billionaire called Mr. P had his wife, Mrs. P, got this disease called Lutopia, I think that's its name, and then his husband tried to find a cure for that disease. So he hired a scientist because he was a billionaire, and he did it really fast, and then he started testing. This is chapter 1 house. They give it to all the pig family except George, and then at first the results are positive, insanely good, and then they give it to Mr. P. Then here chapter 1 starts. Then in chapter 1 you get chased by, you try to investigate the house to see if there's anything mischievous in there, and you try to find anything, and you don't find anything except a pig that's trying to chase you. Then you go back to the station and you try to see anything. The only thing you find is Officer Doggy, and you need to try to find gas because the car was without fuel. Then you go to the gallery. Nothing much happens there. You just have a little talk with Doggy. Then to the forest where Doggy dies, and we for the first time meet Mr. P. Then in the school, chapter 5, we meet Bunny, and she tries to save, we meet him with Mr. P, and then something happens to our body that we turn into infected, and we go to the chapter 7 chapter where it's that Bunny, at first she doesn't feel well, then she lets us leave because she is infected, and she lets us leave, and we become precise to find out who this Mr. P guy is. Then in the chapter 8 carnival, that's where we think Mr. P is, and we try to find him, but we end up running into Zizzy and Pony, where they're also trying to find him and dig more into the infection. And we find out that there are only 2 ways to get infected: getting attacked by an infected or drinking one of the potions from Mr. P, which at this point in time all of them had already been given out. And then we have in chapter 9 we find the grandmother, and we try to escape, and we have Pony, Zizzy, and the player. We talk, have a little chat of our things we had before the infection started. Then in chapter 10 we go to the mall and we find Georgie, because most people thought he was dead, but because of the potion, but he actually was in the mall trying to hide from the other infected so that he didn't get attacked, and then Okay. Then in chapter 11, we find in the outpost, we found Mr. P, and then we chase him to chapter 12, the plant. In the plant, we try to get him, and Mr. P turns into a insanely robotic person. He tries to chase us and get us away so that we don't keep following him and chasing him. And when you escape the map, the true ending, and he basically explains that he was trying to feed him to his wife, and that didn't work out, and that leaves in that ends up he leaves his hat and we don't see him again in the whole story. Now to Piggy Book 2. In Piggy Book 2, we start off Willow robs a pie with Rash, and that's basically the whole chapter. In chapter 2, the store, we find out in that Willow is part of this team called TSP, which we originally found in chapter 8, but I didn't mention that. And in chapter 2, we find this group that takes Zizzy with them to the refinery in chapter 3. Chapter 3, basically, we go to the refinery, and when you escape the refinery, you need to escape, and when in the ending cutscene, we find that Zizzy was fighting off infected, and she ended up getting infected, and RIP her. So when we go to chapter 4, and I forgot what it's in chapter 4. Okay, in chapter 4, we meet the other TSP members, and that's the safe place. Chapter 5, you need to escape, and then the Willow basically shoots Giraffe, and that's to chapter 6, where if you get the savior ending, the TSP members go with Giraffe and they save him, which is more on that later on in the storyline. And also, if you get the survivor ending, basically half the story's out. Okay, chapter 7. In chapter 7, we go, in first chapter 6, we decide to go up north to try to find the cure for the infection that Mr. P caused. And and then we go up north to the port, and we meet Budgie, where he's the captain, and he lends us his boat to go up north. In the ship map, then there's nothing really there. And chapter 9, in the TSP, we find Tigery, and Tigery, he tells us that if we find the cure, he can give it to us. We can give it to Willow, to Tigery, so that we save it, so that he saves a friend, Rash, because at this point in time he's infected, as we learn in this chapter. And also we find that Kona is a part of the that Kona is a scientist that can help us try to find the cure. Then in chapter 10, we meet this guy called Tio, which he is an interdimensional character that can get in control of our minds, and if he's been controlling our minds for the past few chapters, including the second half of the plant. He can control our minds and see what we're thinking. So then in chapter 11, Willow and Tiggery have a fight for who's going to get the cure. And then in chapter 12, the finale, we get who you get to save the cure, and also there's the hidden ending where Pony never got infected because in chapter 9 we have the option to hit him, but that doesn't happen in the hidden ending. And we have to do all that, and the military comes here to we come with the military, and we find them, and they take the cure, and that's the end of the storyline. So yeah, bye.